I wake up to the same old fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Hey everybody, hey, and welcome to another session of Tarka Said Again. And today we have switched it up. We are politicking, as they say. I don't know if that's a good or a bad, but we're touching on that today, politics. And as we know, the book, Addictive Patterns, we know that there are patterns within our community, right? And economic, or when we talk about educational and housing and crime, and we can go on, that have been passed down from one generation to another. And guess what? It is time to vote. The time is near. And I was able to catch up with one of the candidates, and her name is Gloria Joyner. Welcome.
Welcome me. welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity and this forum today.
Definitely. And we want to hear from you and see what are some of your perspectives. Basically, we can go ahead and just start like, what is your vision? But you know what? Before you give me your vision, how did you, as an individual, start out like, what made you even want to run to be considered a leader for District 7?
Well, Tarika, that's an excellent question because I never in my life ever had any political ambitions of any kind. I
Okay.
actually don't have a high regard of most politicians. And so 7 years ago, a hedge fund started an illegal foreclosure against me. And so I went to every regulatory agency and they all failed me. None of them did what they are supposed to do, which is to protect the consumer. And then when I've gone to the leaders in our communities, from the federal all the way down to the local level, some people know, some people don't care. And our actual current commissioner actually was very rude towards me when I reached out to
Hmm.
him because this is an issue affecting predominantly black and brown neighborhoods. There's not someone you wouldn't know that has a story about someone's house getting taken and they didn't know what was going on and all of a sudden
Mhm.
the sheriff was at their door. They pick our neighborhoods because of the price point, because they perceive us not to have resources to fight, to have the knowledge of what's happening to us. And so when I told this commissioner, they were like, what are you calling me for? What do you want from me? And what do you want me to do? I'm not even going to be your commissioner in a few months. So if you think you're so smart, you run for office.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. Okay.
And it wasn't to be rude back towards him because I still didn't take it then, but God put it on my heart because of my background, because of who I am. I'm a native Floridian, born and raised here in Florida, but I'm from Tampa originally. I actually went to USF and then transferred to Florida A&M University, so I am a Rattler.
Okay, Rattler alumni.
All right, I'm a Humphreys Rattler, so I'm the real
Yes,
deal. Holyfield.
Humphrey era. Yes, ma'am.
And I have my MBA as well. So
Wonderful.
I've been a daughter of Orlando since '96, and I've lived in District 7 since '99. Over the course of my lifetime of being a single mom, I worked for the Department of Children and Families as a foster care case manager under Jeb Bush. And when I got hired, he was not the president. So when people say voting doesn't matter, it does. Just real quick, when people don't have housing, someone can call 1-800-96-ABUSE to report you. And the DCF will come out and investigate and take your kids from you only because you don't have housing. Well, it takes about 10 years to qualify for HUD or Section 8. And so when I started at DCF, we were under a Democratic governor. And so one of the procedures that we could implement is a referral to Family Unification Project, and that would take the 10 years down to 6 weeks. As soon as Jeb Bush took office, that money disappeared. And there were no more funds for these families, so that's also what's driving a lot of our homelessness in the Central Florida area. When we turned into a red state, a lot of those services and a lot of the much needed programs for a lot of families who are struggling was snatched away from them. And so that's why I'm fighting, and God called me to fight. He said, you have to fight because you have the degrees, you have the experience. Because I've also worked at Merrill Lynch downtown on Orange Avenue. I've worked at Fidelity Investments. They have 95% of the 401ks in the U.S. I worked at Sotheby's International Realty and Dr. Phillips when we had the Shaquille O'Neal listing with $28 million. And I have my insurance credentials. So I've talked to millionaires every day, and I talk to people who are struggling with family matters. So I know at the most basic level what's hurting our community. And then I've also talked to millionaires every day, and as Michelle Obama said, as I've been saying for years, they're not that smart. They're not that smart.
Okay. So because you touched on homelessness, in your opening, because that's one of the, I guess you would say, the sensitive topics when we talk about homelessness, and it seems like it's not getting any better. It's like the same individuals out there on the streets begging, panhandling. How would you address that, you as an individual, while still trying to balance, in the event that you are elected, to balance the needs of, the businesses, the neighborhoods, as well as the taxpayers, because, they want to make sure that you're doing what's necessary with their money?
That is a very good question, and I believe last month or the month before last, there was an actual candidate forum about this issue. And we all were asked these questions, and we had to address these questions. And I must say that most or all of the persons running, they didn't really have a lot of concrete plans or a lot of specifics, just speaking in generalities. And what I want to remind people before I speak on it specifically from my behalf is that this is a job interview. People running for politics are not celebrities. We are your employee. So you're supposed to evaluate our credentials, not whether or not you like us, whether or not we make you feel good inside. We went to high school with you. We grew up with you. You know us familiar. It's really not about that. What it is about is this person going to be in the room behind closed doors and do what's best for me? We're in this predicament in Orlando because of the leadership that we've had consistently in our neighborhoods. And one of the models that is very successful that is working, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, we don't really have a housing shortage in the traditional sense. We have an affordability crisis and a permanence crisis. And if you don't understand what's really driving this, then you won't do the right thing. And so our policy platform that addresses only one of them won't fix District 7. So I've kind of laid out some very detailed ideas, but it's very, in depth for this conversation. But I will tell you this, one of the places I looked at who's very successful at attacking the houselessness issue is the country Vienna. 75% of their residents qualify for affordable housing. And so they make sure that they have houses in a land trust. So the first thing I would do is establish an Orange County land trust. And what that does, it gives the county the authority to acquire land in District 7 ahead of pressure from developers and people trying to come in, like you saw what happened in Eatonville with Dr. Phillips Charities. So if you're in a trust and it's protected, then it can't be gobbled up by these hedge funds that are gobbling up our properties left and right. We'd have to partnership with limited and nonprofit developers. We have to also pair density bonuses with permanent, not expiring affordability. A lot of times when our leaders make deals with these organizations, they don't make the affordability option permanent. So they make a deal that, hey, you have to have a certain amount of housing when you build new housing affordable, but they don't say it has to be for in eternity. They'll say, oh, 10 years, 30 years, you know what I mean? Something like that. And so what happens is people get priced out of predominantly black and brown neighborhoods after a certain period of time. I would require income mixing because, you know, with affordable housing, there's always a stigma attached. No one wants affordable housing in their neighborhoods, where we would have to talk to designers and architects to actually create aesthetically pleasing affordable housing instead of trying to make people feel humiliated because they require affordable housing. So it just takes someone wanting to do the work instead of saying how hard it is. And because I have a real estate license and I have a background in finance and insurance, I know how to read the fine print. I understand what I'm looking at, and I know enough to know what I don't know. So I would definitely be consulting with attorneys and experts to make sure there are no loopholes so that anything that I'm able to implement won't be undone by the next person coming behind me or at the federal level. We have to really start fighting at the local level because we see at the federal level they have no concern for the working American.
Mm-hmm. And that's a different outlook or perspective in which you just spoke on. It's definitely because that's been something you've been hearing, affordable housing. But then it's like, is it really affordable housing? And then what you just brought out in the fine print, as far as there being a time frame, not being, I guess, placed on it, like you said, it's not for eternity or forever. It's just like maybe for 5 years or 10 years. And that's key, you know. That's something to think about. I wouldn't have thought of that, because it's like, okay, we're putting out all of these different complexes and they're saying affordable housing, but it's like you really not seeing a decrease in homelessness. People still struggling, can't pay their rent, can't pay their bills.
To speak to that point, people, like I said, my background's in finance, but I was a single mom for a very long time. I have had to have EBT before. You understand what I'm saying? When I was in college at FAMU, I was a mother and a wife, and it was hard, and I had Project Independence, and that helped me, get my degree because they gave me money for childcare, they gave me money for gas every week, and so I was able to graduate. And so did I stay on it forever? No, just to get my degree. And so what happens is, it's not a mistake. The average salary in Orange County is between $75,000 and $80,000 a year. The average salary for District 7 is between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. It's not by accident, but we pay the same amount of rent as all of Orange County. You understand what I'm saying to you? But under the black leadership that we've had consistently decade after decade, I don't know if you're familiar with Good Times, but we can't keep electing Alderman Davises and expecting Barack Obama outcomes. There's a reason
they created, just said, those patterns.
Yes, there's a reason they created, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but there's a reason they created that caricature on that sitcom, because right after the civil rights movement, the black American community was looking for, because they had assassinated most of our leaders and they had fragmented the civil rights movement in so many pieces. And so what happened is the black American community was looking for, how do we continue the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Huey P. Newton fight? How do we continue it? What do we do? They're all gone. How do we do this? And so what happened was there were black people that arose up, but they were not fighters for our community, they sold our communities out so that they could have a seat at the table, and they made sure they took care of them and their own. But they did not put their lives on the line. They were not servant leaders. They were serving themselves, and that's why when you drive around Orlando, you know immediately when you're in a black and a brown neighborhood and when you're not.
Yeah, you could tell the difference, the aesthetics. Yeah,
That's a
definitely.
problem. That's
Yeah.
under black leadership. You remember what they said back in the day, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. We got some Clarence and Thomases among us. You know what I'm saying? So we can't just vote for people because we grew up with them, because we like them. Look at the job they're doing. Since I've lived in District 7, which is currently District 6 in 99, when I moved here, there was an Albertsons on the corner of OBT and Claricona Road, and there also was a Publix. It's gone. There was a
Yeah.
Publix on Hiawassee and Silver Star. It's gone. There was a Winn-Dixie on Claricona Road. Now it's an EOS on Hiawassee. We had Longhorn. We had Red Lobster. If I want to go on a date, I got to go to Ocoee, Winter Garden, Dr. Phillips, Winter Park. You think it's by design? It's our leaders selling us out to developers and not caring about the community, because a lot of them, if I'm honest, they don't even live here. They're using the address, but they don't live here. I've lived here since 1999 in Pine Hills, and I'm actually the HOA president where I've lived since 2004.
Got you. Okay, so we're gonna back up to my initial question. We backtracking because you came in hot
I'm sorry.
with the homelessness. No, it's okay. That's what addictive patterns is about, discussing those things that some people shy away from, or avoid or don't want to touch on. So just backing up a bit, what is your vision for your district for the next, what, 4 years?
Well, no, because this is an off-season election, the first round is just 2 years. So everyone who
Okay.
got elected for districts 7 and 8 will have to come back in 28 and run again. And then it's
Okay.
for 4 years after that, because we're mid-cycle. So that is the case. So that being said, as soon as I hit, because I have plans, not concepts of plans, but I actually have plans. The first thing, because I have to tell you, since April, I've been canvassing every week myself, out here with me and my volunteers, and I hear the same things over and over again. So the number one thing I would address is infrastructure, because of what you and I just said. When we're driving through Pine Hills and Eatonville and Orla Vista and Fairview Shores, it doesn't look like Winter Park and Maitland, which is also part of District 7. Parts of it is part of District 7. And so there are meetings that have to be had as soon as I get into office with code enforcement. I need to have to find out what's going on and get a report from them and hold someone accountable for things not being done in a timely basis and an effective basis. I need to have meetings with different department heads because, for example, District 7 has the largest number of septic tanks in all of Orange County. All of our infrastructure is behind, and I ask you again, under people who we're trying to re-elect again. So I have a problem with that. I need leadership to be fanatical. And so another thing that I'm going to address is also public safety. We have to have a good relationship with law enforcement. I am actually the daughter of a Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputy. She was a detective and an FTO. She retired as a sergeant. So one of the things I can tell you that is hurting our community is the over-policing and the toxic policing instead of protecting and serving us. So we have to have community policing really on deck in District 7, because a lot of us in District 7 are afraid to call the police. And whether we're an immigrant and we're afraid that's going to trigger ICE because of a lot of Caribbean Americans and Latino Americans, people don't realize District 7 is 50% Spanish speaking. You know what I mean? And so no one cares about black and brown people until it's happening to them. And so public safety infrastructure is very important to District 7. Or affordability is number one, absolutely. But obviously as a commissioner, we're in a super Republican majority state where they have a lot of laws in place that restrict what jurisdictions can do locally. And so I have to work within that infrastructure until we get the red state to turn blue and we get a more consumer friendly state. But there are things when developers come in, we can require that, hey, you hire a certain percentage of your workforce locally. You don't bring in all these outside people paying them $30, $40 an hour. In order for you to build in District 7, you have to give a certain amount of those jobs to District 7 residents. When you build in District 7, you have to make sure that you're also helping the infrastructure of District 7. You can't come in here and drop off your garbage
Okay. Yeah.
and misuse our community. And then when you're done with us, leave. And then we're left with all the environmental causes. And so we have to have somebody who don't play no games. And that's me. I don't play. For me to run for office, I would never in a million years run for office. I've been fighting this fight at a micro level. That's why God called me. He said, you've been fighting all the time for everybody in your life. He said, now I need you to magnify that and fight for your community. And when you do, they're going to see what it's supposed to be like when you have effective leadership, instead of voting for people who are popular and that you feel comfortable with because you went to Evans with them or Jones with them or you grew up with them. That doesn't mean that's the most qualified candidate. That's just the most familiar candidate.
And that's a key point. We talk about familiarity all the time, with addictive patterns and
You got
relationships.
that addictive
Um,
patterns down.
so I definitely appreciate it, but I'm going to ask you one last question, and you kind of gave a little to me as far as why you should be or why you are considered the best candidate to represent the residents. Is there anything else you would like to add in summation?
I'm the best candidate because I'm working hard and I'm not getting paid. Every time I go to a door in Eatonville, every time I go to a door in Pine Hills, every time I go to a door in College Park in Orla Vista, I hear the same thing over and over again. You are the first candidate I have ever seen in my life. In my life. And that hurts me so much because you want their vote, but they're not good enough to go to their house and look them in the eye and ask them to trust you. You think you can get their vote by just putting out flyers and putting out signs and putting out billboards. And so I am working now. I was in 100-degree weather yesterday canvassing after I had a radio interview, and then I had another interview that night on Haitian radio. And so what I'm saying to you is I know what it takes to be successful. I'm not a politician. That's not what makes this successful. I am a very good businesswoman. I am a very humble servant leader. When I get in the doors, I'm used to being the only black girl in the room. So rich white guys don't scare me. They don't intimidate me. They can't show me any document or piece of paper that I can't comprehend or understand. I have an MBA. You understand what I'm saying? So they're not going to be able to pull any fine print over my eyes. And I am smart enough to know what I don't know. If there's something I'm not sure, there are experts I can refer to. There are attorneys I can ask. I'm not going to have a closed door meeting about something that's going to impact the community without getting the community's input. I'm going to be extremely transparent. All of my flyers have my personal cell phone number on my flyers. Someone called the number one day and said, "Is that a real number? I didn't know it was a real number." They got my flyer in Miss Kim's. I said, "Yes, I'm a real person." This isn't a game to me. This is life because I live here. My son can't afford to buy a house because the average house price is $505,000. You know why? Because hedge funds own 20 to 30% of the homes here. And they're holding these homes and they're driving up the prices and no one's doing anything about it. And if you elect me in office, when I become commissioner, you become commissioner. And when I fight, you win. And when you win, I win.
All right, I like that. She's telling you all that she is highly qualified, Miss Gloria Joyner. And thank you so much. In thinking of that, just quickly you basically saying getting out in the community in this hot weather, and that's how we met. A back to school event.
Rosemont Community Center.
Correct.
Yes, I was so hot
Yes.
that day. I thought I was gonna pass out, and I saw the kids at the ice cream truck. The line was so long. I said, "Lord have mercy." But when I saw you, your spirit spoke to my spirit because you looked hot too.
Yeah. I was.
And so
Yes.
I saw you, and what do you do? What do you do? Next thing you know, hey, let's connect.
Right,
Let's
definitely.
connect.
So I
Sisters uplifting
definitely,
sisters. That's
exactly.
what I'm about. And like I said to you, anyone who knows me personally and professionally knows, and you can look up my licenses. I've never had a complaint against my license. I have clients from 20 years ago who call me still and ask me things. And I don't say, hey, I don't work at that company anymore. What are you calling me for? I give them the information because my name is my reputation. I
Hmm.
believe in the platinum rule. You're familiar with the golden rule, right?
Yes, the golden, yes.
So
But
can we
you got a
remind the
platinum.
listeners about the golden rule? Do
You say
unto,
reminder.
do
Oh,
unto,
do unto others as you would want them to do unto you.
but the platinum rule is a level above. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would want to be done to.
Okay.
Because we
Okay.
typically do for people what we would want for them instead of doing for people what they want. And that's what our leaders have been doing for us what they think we want instead of talking to us, finding out what's important to us. How are you going to know if you don't go door to door, if you don't make the phone calls? I'm the only candidate that's been to both phone canvassing dates that the Orange County Democratic Black Caucus has. I'm the only one out of the 12 that showed up both times for phone
Oh,
calls. I'm one of only 3 candidates that showed up to the District 7 physical door-to-door canvassing last month. There was only 3 of us out of District 7. So these are the things that people should be looking at. I'm not just talking about it, I'm being about it. And www.voteforjoyner.com, vote the number 4 joyner.com. Contributions are welcome, but so are volunteers. I'm taking this very seriously, and I'm asking you to trust me, and I'm asking you to evaluate me to be your employee for the next 2 years. And if I don't do my job, fire me.
okay.
Fire me.
Point blank, period. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate it. And voters, she is telling you directly check the background, check her background, check the patterns of the various candidates because there is a total of 12 that's running for District 7. That's what considered West Orange County. All right. There you have it.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. And for my listeners, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Have a good one.